this town's slogan should be Gravity Falls. The probability of you getting possessed is at least 25%. Hey, it's Allie. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. In part one of this little mini series I have going on, I made an OC named Odette, and we looked at season 1 of Gravity Falls through her eyes as a person who has lived there basically her entire life. And she has broken her back backwards and forwards, all types of way, just trying to get the town to admit that they know that weird stuff is going on. Like, while Dipper is over there trying to prove that it's real, Odette is trying to prove just that the town knows that it's real and that they're trying to fake it. And oh Lord, does this season prove and disprove a lot. So come with me through part 2 as we talk about Gravity Falls season 2 and Odette as she tries to figure out, does the town really know what's going on, or are they just that dumb? Jury's still out on both of those. Okay guys, first of all, I do have a design for Odette now. Everybody clap, everybody clap. I somehow had time to draw this week, and here is Odette's. I'll put her somewhere on the screen. She also should be in the thumbnail. Hopefully, I have a whole Pepe Sylvia thing dedicated just towards her. So hopefully she is in the thumbnail. I also did my makeup kind of based off of her. I have a feeling that she and Bill are not one and the same, but are very close into what they are. I expect her to be some type of supernatural being, but I don't think she knows that she's a supernatural being. And so she's getting these like feelings, these like headaches, these like waves of like supernatural stuff going on, but she doesn't actually know this, and neither does Bill, because she's kind of invisible, if you really want to talk about it, and that can get into a whole lot of angst that we can get into in another day, but she's kind of like invisible to most of the people in Gravity Falls unless she is standing right in front of you, which is how she's able to like slink around. She doesn't really think much of it. She probably just thinks like, oh, I'm kind of antisocial, I don't really do anything, I'm just kind of there in the background, kind of like Tad Strange. We'll get to him. But, you know, she's just kind of there, and no one really thinks about her unless you are directly in eyesight of her, which Society of the Blind Eye we will get to. So sit back, grab a snack, because oh Lord, I know this is going to be a long one. I'm also in it for the long haul. I got some water to be sitting here for over an hour. I got a little triangle on my head, triangle over here. I'm ready. Are you ready? If at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe, because I make videos like this all the time. I'm so happy y'all were rocking with the format of the last video. We're continuing it on here. I'm going to be talking about season 2 of this show, and I'm going to be touching on a little bit of the fandom stuff as it relates to specifically Mabel, but I know this is a very big fandom that has existed for a very, very long time. So if there's anything that you want to bring up about the fandom, good or bad, awesome, not awesome, like I find it really cool that the fandom has revived itself and that we have new fan arts, new old fan arts, like old fan artists making new fan artists, like the Bill Twink artist is back. Salute to you. Salute to you. So I would love to hear stuff like that. If you remember any type of drama that happened way back in the day, firsthand accounts, always great to hear. You know, let's talk about it in the comments below. Oh, and of course, tell me your guys' OCs as well. I didn't mean for this to happen, but I'm glad that it did. In the last video, you guys just started telling me about your guys' OCs that you guys made when you started watching Gravity Falls, and I think that's amazing. So continue to do that. Like, I love that. Please, please. Especially because we could do that with a bunch of different shows, just making OCs for a bunch of different shows. I would love to do that. I always do that like up here, but I never actually like draw it or write it down anywhere, and I would love to like do that on this channel while I also talk and recap and analyze shows that I love. So let me know, and let's head back into Gravity Falls. Last we left our sleepy little town of Gravity Falls, Gideon, and the terrorist that he is, got sent to jail. Adult jail, as y'all so pointedly pointed out in the last video. And the Pines family, of course, got the mystery shack back. And all is good. Except that Stan is doing God knows what with that machine. A large burst of energy happens throughout the night, and while it wakes most of Gravity Falls up because of the sound and a beam of light, Odette also gets woken up, but because of a feeling, a very weird gut feeling she has in her head. She's also been having really weird triangle-shaped dreams lately, but she's just trying to brush that aside because she figures once everything gets figured out with whatever the Pines family is doing, surely it will go away. And you know who else felt something? The FBI, or whatever off-brand section of the FBI this is. And now there are these government agents in town snooping around. And look, Odette may want to catalog everything that's going on in the town and maybe shove it in the townsfolk faces to see like, hey, look, this is the thing that you've been trying to hide. I see it. She's no snitch, okay? She's not gonna just go to the government and be like, here you go. But you know who will? Dipper. Now, Granted, Dipper is 12, okay? And he still trusts the government and the police and all that type of stuff, right? Because he's 12. And he doesn't really understand that, especially when it comes to conspiracy theory stuff, the government probably isn't going to take too lightly to a 12-year-old knowing all of their secrets. And of course, seasoned veteran Stan also knows this. I love that he's like, first rule, don't talk to cops. Second rule, you're grounded. This reminds me of another Alex Hirsch production that unfortunately got canceled, and that is Inside Job. We need to pour one out for Inside Job and Dead End Paranormal Park. Those are different stories for another day. Inside Job, if you don't know, is a show that's pretty much about government conspiracies. It's about this girl who works for like the conspiracy side of the government. It's a largely like parody type show of like, what if all the crazy conspiracies are real and then some and all this other type of stuff. Like it's really funny. It's really fucking funny, and they canceled it. They canceled it. I don't know. The part of me is like, maybe it was misogyny because we had a really good girl failure of a main character. Like she's great. She's great. She's the epitome of that one meme that was like, oh, get a boyfriend. And then the parent comes in and be like, or girlfriend, she's bi too. Damn, nobody wants you for real. That's her. That's her. And her himbo of a best friend. I literally... But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, there's this one episode where they go to this town that's like perpetually stuck in the 80s. I think it's the 80s or the 90s, one of the two, because of some experiments that they did on the town. And they keep that town hidden specifically because they know that if this got out, obviously people would know about the things that are happening in this town. Anyway, the point is, they would rather nuke that town than for anybody to ever know that any weird stuff was going on. And that's how I feel about the government in Gravity Falls. They would rather nuke Gravity Falls than to ever be like, hey guys, the paranormal is real and it's kind of cool. But Dipper doesn't know that because again, he's 12. And in trying to prove that Dipper does know about all of the weirdness going on to the government agents, he decides to raise the dead. So this doesn't surprise Odette that when she shows up to the mystery shack, because apparently there was supposed to be a party, instead there are zombies.
Dipper, what's the one thing I asked you not to do tonight?
Raise the dead.
And what did you do?
Raise the dead.
Also, side note, I did immediately start crying when the Pines family started singing Taking Over Midnight. I don't know why. I think it was just a mixture of emotions of knowing what comes next and also very heavy nostalgia because I unironically loved that song when it came out. Like I unironically was like singing that song in class with friends when it came out. So I think it was a mixture of nostalgia and also knowing what the Pines family is going to go through over the next like 20 episodes. I started crying. This is episode 1, guys. Episode 1. Yeah, I'm not gonna make it. And what did Odette do throughout all of this? Well, she hid in a trash can. Okay, if you were hoping for some magical heroism for her to know what she's doing with her supernatural powers and be a big, strong, girly girl and, you know, girl boss, girl babe. No, she's a girl failure. I love her. But she definitely hid in a trash can the entire night. She's not getting turned into the undead yet. She did overhear, thankfully, and this has been her MO for a while now, and it will continue to be her MO to hide in trash can and overhear personal conversations between the Pines family, that Stan and Dipper promised to each other that if, you know, Dipper doesn't do anything weird with the journals, he can keep his journal because Stan did take it away from him, and that Stan will no more lies from Stan. And of course they're both doing this behind themselves, which means that they're lying. I'm sure it won't come back to bite them in the ass about it, you know? Now Stan definitely could have handled all of that a little bit better because he said that there was nothing stopping him, nothing gonna come in the way rather, between him and the thing that he was doing with that machine. And obviously hindsight's 2020, we get it. You know, he had a very one-track mind during this section of the season. However, I will say that is a little bit of a flaw here because you just let your 12-year-old wards, in this case, just kind of go off and do whatever. I think we should have kept a little bit closer of an eye on them. Just a little. They are still under your care. Like, you are their legal guardian right now. Like, just a little bit. You know, a little bit. I think it's cool in the sense of, like, making summer memories that you kind of just got to go off and do whatever. But also just a little bit of being an adult. Maybe just a little tiny bit. But all is forgiving because we do get to see Stan in this particular scene that has been redrawn a gajillion times. Like, also that he kind of comes out of nowhere. How I know, like, as a kid, I was like, oh my god, Stan gets to do badass stuff. And with multiple side characters like Wendy and Seuss also getting to do badass stuff this season, I thought that was just like par for the course. Like, oh, the crew just wants to, highlight a bunch of other side characters that aren't just Dipper and Mabel getting to do really cool, like, physical things, especially, that we get to see Ford, and he is, like, also really cool, like, physically cool and things like that. So that's what I thought as a kid. I am now an adult. I'm now an adult, and putting two and two together about why Stanley shows up out of nowhere looking completely rugged, tie thrown about, shirt ripped, all this other stuff with brass knuckles on his hands. I'm just saying, I understand now. I'm 24, and I now understand. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, that's the end of the episode. The government agents aren't dead. Time for Dipper and Wendy to Electric Boogaloo. But first we get to talk about Wendy. So back what I was saying, we do get to see a lot of characters get to be really badass in this season, which of course lends its credence to the fact that, like, oh, so maybe you did know what the fuck was going on in this town, because the only way you would be prepared enough to do something like this is if you knew what was going on in this town and needed to prepare for it, or if your dad was crazy and just prepared for apocalypses like that, which apparently Wendy's parents do, or Wendy's dad. I don't think Wendy does have dreams about her mom, right? Her mom is dead, right? Or just not in the picture, because in the book of Bill, when Bill talks about the dreams that everyone has, he talks about Wendy dreaming about her mom, and she only ever talks about her dad and her brother. She never talks about her mom, so assumedly her mom is either dead or out of the picture. You can go around, like, what is happening? But anyway, Wendy gets to be really cool in these, like, next couple, honestly, this entire season, she gets to be really cool, like, physically. And I can totally see, as a kid, looking at this and going, oh, like, I understand where Dipper is coming from. She's still too old for you, but I definitely understand where that whole, awakening came from. Mm-hmm. Odette, of course, can't get this feeling out of her head, and it gets stronger every time she's near the Pines family, so she's now stalking the Pines family. But, like, from a respectable distance, okay? And it may be a respectable distance into an abandoned bunker. All right, guys, time to talk about Mabel. So in this episode, when they're in the bunker, Mabel realizes that Dipper still has a crush on Wendy, even though Dipper has said that he is going to move on and just focus on finding the author of the journals. And because of this, Mabel traps Wendy and Dipper on the other side of a cave, which was what she thought was a broom closet, ended up being the other side of the cave, which leads out into a bunch of space. It's the other side of a cave. I literally just said that. Ignore me, okay? I just woke up from a nap. And of course, there ends up being a monster in there. Now, was that smart of her to do? No. Did it make sense as a 12-year-old who genuinely thought that was a broom closet? Yes. And there is also something to be said about the fact that Mabel is trying to stay whimsical despite the fact that the world is rapidly and heavily changing around her. But we'll get back to that one. Because, oh my god, look, it's the author of the journals! It's the guy!
You don't understand. You're the guy I've been looking for.
He's the guy?
Wendy, it's the guy!
No, it's actually just a shapeshifter in question who has everybody's shape-shifting stuff except for Filford McGucket, which may be understandable. Maybe he just doesn't know who he is. But don't you think he should have the actual authors of the journals, like, abilities? Because all he had to do was see a person's face on a can and shapeshift into that person, which means that he doesn't necessarily need to touch somebody, right? Because I would think that, like, oh, okay, maybe he just never touched the actual author of the journals, which is why he never turned into the author of the journals. But, like, no, he saw a thing on a can and then turned into that thing in the can. Unless the actual author of the journals did a really good job at hiding his face, which is also very much so possible. I don't know if they mentioned that in that episode or not. If they did, let me know down in the comments below. But, like, because everybody else, the shapeshifter ends up shape-shifting into at some point during the episode. So you would think that, like, logically, oh, why didn't the shapeshifter just shapeshift into the author of the journals if he saw him at some point? But maybe he never saw him. It probably was explained in the episode and I just wasn't listening. Also, this is the most craziest piece of foreshadowing ever. The internet was going insane trying to figure out what this was going to be, especially because we all thought it was going to be ice related. Happened that way. And I don't know, I really would love to, if I have time, to go look at the theories. I may or may not have time for this. But, like, I don't think anybody was like, yeah, he's gonna get turned into wood. I think maybe they were like, maybe he's gonna die in a fiery pit or something and he's gonna do that and that's how he's gonna die. Like, we literally thought Dipper was going to die. Like, actually. Or it was a prophecy that, like, you know, Dipper had to somehow break or something like that. But it does happen, just not in the way that I think any of us were expecting. Now, it's none of her business, but Odette does stay behind in the woods to listen to the relationship drama between Wendy and Dipper. Look, There's not much else going on in the town, okay? This is probably the most interesting thing that's happened in weeks, okay? Aside from the zombies and Gideon. And Wendy does reveal that she does know that Dipper had a crush on her. And also knows that, yeah, she's way too old for you, bro. Way too old. And it's funny because she asked Dipper, like, what did you think was going to happen? And Dipper just sits there like, haha, yeah. No, and I'm like, no. I wish you actually answered that. What did you think was going to happen? Like, actually, like, you thought she was just gonna wait for you? Like, I genuinely, Dipper, let's be a little serious now. I do like that they just straight up said that it might be a little awkward, though they never really show any of that awkwardness throughout the show, I guess for the sake of time, but it is nice that we get to see that coming of age, like, awkwardness of getting rejected for the first time, even though the relationship was never going to happen in the first place. You know, it's nice to see that awkwardness from Dipper and the understanding that, like, yeah, it's a little awkward, but, you know, you deal with crazy shit all the time. Like, this little bit of interpersonal awkwardness, I'm sure will be fine. And also, Wendy handles, like, everything like a champ. Probably because she has to, but that, I feel like that's an entirely different video that you could do on Wendy about how she probably has to take everything like a champ and be cool as a cucumber. In fact, what was that episode where they were all, like, literally about to die and Wendy was like, oh, I seem chill all the time, but really I'm not, I'm so stressed. And I'm like, yeah, she's probably single-handedly taking care of her family, because she has mentioned before that she has to single-handedly take care of her family because her dad is kind of incompetent. And then also the fact that, like, she is kind of the glue, the leader in her friend group. So physically, mentally, also she's a teenager, she's going through it. Oh, she's going through it. I love Wendy so much. And most importantly, Dipper and Mabel make up. Mabel apologizes to Dipper for the things that she did. And Dipper also apologizes as well. And everything is cool. And he forgives Mabel and everything is fine. Literally everything is fine. So what's y'all's problem? So speaking of, like I said last video about this being Mabel's season and the first season really being Dipper's season, Odette has been trailing the Pines kid for a little bit now, obviously this summer, and they just publicly get up to some really weird stuff. And Mabel seems to be a lot at the center of this. A lot of more lower stakes things Mabel seems to be at the center at. Like, first there was this whole golf war where now it has Odette thinking that there are many men running around everywhere, because first it was the gnomes and now it's these little ball people that run the putt-putt place. Mabel ended up challenging Pacifica to a putt-putt battle, and here begins Mabel desperately trying to cling on to her old self and the things that make her happy. I think that she has been doing this all summer long and will continue to do it for the rest of the summer, and we'll hear more about that later, but it was specifically these 3 events that really had Odette go, so is anybody checking on her? Like, is anybody, like, actually, you know, checking on Mabel, like, emotionally checking in on her? Because anytime anybody, like, starts to try to, oh, it's Deflection City. Oh, it's Deflection City. Odette does wonder what happened to the putt-putt place after the entire fiasco with that war, because the little ball people don't really like humans anymore, right? So how are they going to continue to run the putt-putt place if that's their domain now? Did that place just close down and nobody know why? And then, of course, the puppet show episode. Mabel wants to put on a puppet show for this guy she just met, but in doing so, she ignores Dipper, who she did promise to help out with this laptop that they found in the bunker. This is also one of those major instances where people point out Mabel being annoying because she chose to do something frivolous instead of helping out her brother with the more serious and plot-driven thing. And despite the fact that Dipper straight up confronts her about it multiple times, and then Bill, possessing Dipper's body, also confronts her about it, people still, for some reason, find that she did the more selfish thing that somehow was, like, life-altering, life-ending, even though it wasn't. At the end of the day, Dipper made that decision with Bill. Would it have helped if Mabel was there? Yes. She probably would have steered him in the right direction, told him to get some sleep, and he wouldn't have been sleep-deprived to do that. Still, though, Dipper was the one who made that decision, okay? He got tricked by Bill, as Mabel will also get tricked by Bill later, into giving up his own body to be a puppet for Bill. So, while yes, Mabel not helping Dipper led to that situation, Dipper is still the one who took the plunge. So, why we are all blaming this entire thing on Mabel, kind of crazy. But I'm getting ahead of myself. where's Odette in all of this? Now, Odette is just living her life as kind of like a normal citizen at this point, just trying to like honestly make friends with the town, and because she has been kind of like this outsider loner for a very long time, and she wants to get to know the town better to really understand why or why not they may know about the things going on in this town and not saying anything about it. So of course she does end up at the puppet show where the little puppet guy who makes out with his puppets is. That guy's a little odd, and Mabel could definitely do better, but hey girl, I had some weird crushes too as a kid. And she gets a good look at Dipper, and he's looking rough, and the little triangle in her head the little feeling of triangles in her head seems to get stronger and stronger and stronger, even more so when she's around the Pines family right now. So she gets a good look at Dipper, and he looks rough, like really rough, like his eyes are kind of glowing yellow rough. Wait a minute. Yep, that's right, Dipper got possessed by Bill in what is one of the craziest moves of the season and of the fandom entirely. This one episode, this one half of an episode, oh, it left the community in shambles. The amount of fan art, the amount of fan fiction, the amount of just AUs, which like was where the fan fiction came from, the amount of like AUs of like, but what if though Dipper just started working for Bill? Like, what if Dipper started working for Bill? What if the Pines twins specifically worked for Bill the entire time, and Stan was really that deadbeat uncle and just never took care of them, or maybe he was dead or something like that, and Bill got a hold of him and now the twins work for them. Like, when I tell you all of these AUs, oh, I was eating it up as a kid. I was eating it up. So if you know any like really cool like Gravity Falls AUs, like, let me know down in the comments.
I mean, who would sacrifice everything they've worked for just for their dumb sibling?
Yeah, I know. Who would do that? Who would sacrifice everything for their sibling? I don't know. I genuinely don't know who would do that. Anyway, Mabel realizes a really good lesson about being there for your sibling and ends up helping Dipper at the cost of her own puppet show, which is a really good lesson for her to learn about sacrifices for your loved ones. Because, once again, say it with me now, she is 12. And as Bill is ripped from Dipper's body, Odette swears she can hear some type of cackling and someone saying that things aren't over. Usually she only hears those mutterings in her dreams and not like she's having conversations with Bill at all. She just overhears things. But now she's hearing them when she's wide awake. Something's not right. The next time she hears about the Pines twins is when she hears about haunted animatronics and a haunted game program that took over said animatronics, which, like, okay, come on now, guys. That's a little bit of a stretch. Haunted animatronics, really? Also, a little game girl who comes to life and is very jealous of you and only wants you to date her. Like, come on now. That's a little too far-fetched. I'm just saying, it's a little too far-fetched for me. Especially for the year, 2014? Come on now, guys. Come on. Odette also hears whispers of a random guy being kept at the mystery shack that's just like a regular guy that's being held captive. But every time she's there, she never sees it. So chances are maybe she's heard about it from a different universe, a different timeline. Who knows? Okay. Let's talk about the Society of the Blind Eye. Now, I've said it to you, and I don't know if you've noticed by how much she's not interacting with anything, but Odette isn't the smartest cookie in the room. She kind of just dives first head into things whenever she has instincts and thinks about the consequences later. So no, she doesn't notice when a bunch of robed guys in red have been following her around for the last couple of days. So when she gets knocked out and wakes up in a random place, being told that all of her memories are going to get erased, she can't really do anything but let it happen. However, when she stumbles back into her apartment, dazed and confused about the happenings of the last 48 hours to the entire summer, she happens upon this. And hopefully this is her Pepe Sylvia board that I have hopefully drawn. I've already drawn the sketch of it, so hopefully it's up. And it also should be the thumbnail of this video. All of the memories of the past summer come flooding back to her very, very quickly. But yeah, she's gone fully Charlie Day, Pepe Sylvia on this. She thinks that, like, she has her own running theories about who could be the author of the journals. Gompers is still in the running, y'all. He's still in the fucking running. Don't know. He is. So I guess for once, her obsessiveness and not really being on anybody's radar paid off. Now, she makes a note to go back to the Society of the Blind Eye and try to destroy it before they can harm anybody else. However, the Pines family, as always, beat her to it and dropped the bombshell that Philford McGucket worked with the author of the journals and also made the Society of the Blind Eye, because whatever he did while working with the author of the journals was too devastating, too traumatizing, that he had to make a machine to help him forget. And he used it so many times to the point where that he has completely lost himself, and he is the way that he is now. Yeah, that's not depressing at all. And Odette just thinks that is just simply tragic. Like, she's had a couple conversations with this guy, like, especially because not many people see her or want to talk to her, but Filford is definitely one of those who, you know, look out for the little guy, who's very attentive despite the fact that he's losing himself. And he's just like a sweet old man. He's a sweet old man who just, you know, wants to get by in this world, you know? And so Odette has had a couple conversations with him, but they're never anything groundbreaking or crazy. And now she has seen him in an entirely different new light. So Odette takes a back seat because that was a lot, and she doesn't want to be back on the Robes radar just in case there are some stragglers out there. So the next couple of ventures that the Pines family goes on, she kind of stays out of it. Seuss's backstory though, love him so much, fuck his father, let me tell you. And yes, I did cry at the end scene with Seuss walking up to Stan and Stan giving him a job on the spot. Yes, I did cry. Thank you. And I definitely wish we got more Seuss and Stan like interactions, because Seuss has always come off as a type of person to be like, I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be included. But does Stan know how much Seuss means to him? Like, I don't think either of them know how much each other mean to each other, even though he gives him, you know, spoiler alert, he gives him the mystery shack at the end of the show. It's like, I like, but do you know do you know how much you mean to Seuss, Stan? Do you? And Blendon as a character is absolutely hilarious. I'm glad that he had a little cameo, and he will again later on. And how many of us, hands up, was like, oh my god, that's the guy from Gravity Falls when Rick and Morty came out? That's okay. It didn't age very well, but that's okay. And Odette in no way, shape, or form is getting involved in any type of teenager friendship, relationship drama. Absolutely not. Been there, done that, homies. There will be dissertations written on why queer friendships in high school and in college are the way that they are. Because you think that something that would be so bonding for baby queers wouldn't be as traumatizing and hellish as it is, but it is. I don't know what it is. And there has to be dissertations written on that, because there's no reason why something that should be so bringing together everybody, like queer children together, should have such devastating impacts on one another for the rest of your life. Like, I do not understand. So needless to say, even though I don't, you know, for the sake of the show, I don't think that friend group is queer, she's not getting involved with any type of relationship, teenager relationship, friendship drama. No. She's in her 20s. She's too old for that. But it is nice to know that cherubs are real. But does that also then imply the existence of higher gods? Something to think about. And while normally Odette would not in a million years be invited to a Northwest Mansion party, she was able to bluff her way with her little fancy camera that she has into being press for the event. I mean, hey, a fancy camera and some confidence will get you pretty far. But of course, the Northwest are cursed because of their biblical levels of greed. Who would have thought? So she ends up being turned into wood anyway. But also Odette is very close to calling CPS because...
You dare disobey us?
Yeah, even as a child, that was very disturbing. Now, this episode was a very grand episode. It's also kind of like the middle calm before the storm. I'm pretty sure almost the halfway season finale. The halfway season finale is technically a tale of two stands. But if you don't count the 5-part season finale that is Weirdmageddon, then you could kind of argue that this was kind of the climax of the season almost, or like the end of the rising action, I should say, of the season. And so it was really nice to see like the kind of prophecy being fulfilled with the Northwest, and also Dipper, his whole thing about being turned into wood. Alex Hirsch has such a good way, that whole crew has such a good way of like misdirecting people, because we'll talk about another really, really big misdirection at the end here. But specifically with that, we thought it was going to be specifically related to Dipper, the author of the journals, all this other type of stuff. And it ended up being something completely different and more personal. And that tends to be kind of like a theme when it comes to prophecies and things happening to the Pines family or anybody in this town, really. Also, those government agents at the end of that episode, hello? Okay, all right. Odette's head has been hurting a lot more, and gravitational anomalies are getting a lot worse. And Odette most definitely saw Stan with a couple of barrels of radioactive waste strapped to his car one night. It might be time to figure this one out. So while she does see Stan get hauled off in a cop car, which probably isn't the first time in his life he's done that, she waits around because the government agent guys are crawling all over the place. But eventually they leave in some sort of rush, and that's when Odette sneaks into the mystery shack and sneaks down into the bunker because that thing was just left wide open, and finds a nice place to hide amongst all the junk to witness what is about to happen. So Stan is not Stan. Maybe definitely a grifter with multiple fake IDs, but why would a grifter need a doomsday device? And so I understand Dipper's frustration in this moment of not really knowing who Stan is, and obviously all the journals put together alluded to this doomsday device that had "do not operate" in big red letters on it. However, my immediate thought would not be, oh my god, this guy's a supervillain. It would be, he's probably going to sell his soul to whatever magical devil being that's going to come out of there so he could get fame and riches. Because as a grifter, that would make sense, and everything we know about Grunkle Stan up until this moment would allude to that, in my opinion. This also, I don't think this movie was out by then, but there's this really cheesy horror movie that was coming out during this time of the 2010s when a bunch of random horror movies that were clearly aimed at teenagers to go to the movies to see, they weren't that good, like The Boy and this one I'm about to talk about, The Visit, but they were really funny movies that a bunch of teenagers would go see on like a Friday night. The Visit is about these two kids. I think it's called The Visit. It might be called something else, but I'm pretty sure it's The Visit. It's about these two kids whose parents shipped them off to their grandparents' house. I don't know, for the whole summer or just for an extended period of time. For some reason, the mom is not with them when they drop them off. I don't know if they took the bus or something, much like, you know, the Pines twins do when they come to Gravity Falls. The family is not there to drop them off. TLDR, the whole big twist of the movie is that their grandparents aren't their actual grandparents and that they've been living with complete strangers the entire time. And then it becomes like this thriller horror movie type thing where they kind of have to escape and call their parents. I think somehow they do it because they're like on Skype or whatever after the parents or the grandparents are being a little weird, and they finally get a hold of the mom to be like, Mom, Grandma and Grandpa are acting really weird right now. And then they show Grandma and Grandpa, and the mother is like, those are not your grandparents. I'm coming. I'm on my way. And like the kids end up fine, I believe, by the end of it, and the grandparents end up dead. I don't know who they were. I don't know if it was like a serial killer thing or if it was just like a haunted house thing. I don't remember, but it was a stupid ass movie. It wasn't very good, but the premise was actually really interesting because it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you make sure that your kids are actually going to their actual grandpa and grandma's house? Anyway, that's what this reminds me of. Because it is kind of that moment of like, do I know who you are? Like, what if our parents thought our Grunkle Stan was one thing, but he's not? Because they are in a time, like, this is giving like really early 2000s. So there's cell phones and smartphones and things like that, but like chatting online and stuff like that is still like pretty new, and it's still pretty clunky. So like, you know, but anyway, that's not where they went with that, thankfully. Stan is their Grunkle, but they don't really know that, and this whole thing culminates in Grunkle Stan telling Mabel, who is about to press the button to make all of this stop, like, hey, you know me, like, as much as like all this has been going on, at the end of the day, Grunkle Stan has never put these kids in danger like that. And that's what Mabel is thinking in her head. I can like almost confidently believe that is how that scene was written. And that's what Mabel has going on in her head. The fact that she, even though this man may not be her actual Grunkle or Stan or whoever, she knows that this man has never put her in danger. Like, and I know that's still kind of like, whoa, stranger danger. But she knows that. And she knows that, like, at the end of the day, this man is her hero, okay? Like, realistically, in real life, I'd be running for the hills. But, like, you know, in this, like, fictional town world where everybody kind of knows everybody, she chooses to believe him. And that ends up being the correct decision to make. Both Dipper and Mabel were right in this scenario. Like, you're right to still trust the man who has been taking care of you this entire summer. But also, at the same time, you're right to not trust him after he's been lying to you this entire summer. So, another reason why people hate Mabel, even though that literally she kind of had to do that for the sake of the plot, so it's kind of crazy to be like, oh, she made such a stupid decision, blah 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 blah. I'm like, she's a 12-year-old kid. Like, let's I know I keep saying that and it sounds like kind of like a cop out, but it's like, no, she's a 12-year-old kid and she made a 12-year-old decision. I don't know what to especially with her whole character arc being like not being able to let go and wanting to cling on to the past and cling on to, you know, her people and things like that. She wants to believe that her Grunkle Stan is her Grunkle Stan. So she's going to make the decision that would keep her with her Grunkle Stan. You know? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And a man pops out of the rift looking thing, and it turns out to be dun 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 the author of the journals, dun dun dun, Stan's brother, dun dun dun, his twin. Oh my god, the twin parallels. How many people had that on their bingo board when this happened? I don't know what I believed. I think I wanted Philford McGucky to be the author of the journals because I thought that would be really cool, especially as a person who lost his mind. I thought that would have been really, really interesting. However, this was absolutely more interesting, especially with the whole parallels between twins and twins. I think that Eat that shit up. It's funny because this is apparently a theory that people had, but it's a theory not many people thought of before. And it gets kind of joked on at some point during, I think in Dungeons and More Dungeons, when they're watching Duck-tective, and it turns out Duck-tective has like a twin brother the whole time, and people are like, oh boo, that sucks, that's lame. And then like Seuss is like, I predicted this like way back in season 1. I love the little meta jabs they make. I love it so much. All right, let's talk about A Tale of Two Stands. At this point, Odette feels like she's intruding because this is definitely a personal families only conversation and she's here, but she can't really leave right now because the FBI or whoever the heck are upstairs and she can't really go anywhere. So I guess she's here listening to this conversation. Now, I'm going to give you mostly my opinion about all of this instead of retreading and recapping everything. I'm going to give a little recap so we're all on the same page, but I'm not going to go bar for bar about The Tale of Two Stands. One of the best episodes in the entire show. However, if you would like a bar for bar analysis and recap of this episode, I highly suggest that you go watch the 4-hour video essay about this one episode done by Hannah Hyperfixiates. I found this video randomly and now we're mutuals. It's crazy how that happens, but that video is so good. The amount of like analysis that you get just from this one episode about these two characters is insane. It's insane. So I highly suggest you go watch that. But just in case you need a little recap, Stan and Ford were inseparable, especially as two outcasts. But when being threatened with being split up, especially since it was always them against the world, cough, cough, parallels, cough, cough, Stan accidentally ruined Ford's future by ruining his science experiment that was possibly going to get him into some prestigious school, and then proceeds to get kicked out at what is probably the age of like 17. That's the 60s for you. Don't think about your parenting too hard. You'll realize it's abuse. So, question for the audience. Do you think Stanford was in the right to not only punch Stanley, oh my god, in the face when he got back, but also saying that he's gonna get kicked out of his house at the end of the summer? Because personally for me, no, because who's been paying your mortgage this entire time, you dumbass? Like, of course, like the entire idea of like getting Stanford back is kind of the least that Stanley can do, if we're being honest. Like, okay, like I get that point, right? You're not really like, you should thank him for getting you back, but also the whole argument they had leading up to the things that happened is like equally on both of their faults, right? Like very much so. But the idea of just kicking Stanley out of your house at the end of the summer because you just want your house back and your life back, it's like, okay, you still had a mortgage to pay. Let's be serious now. And maybe it's a little biased in Stanley's direction because we know of all the things that Stanley had to do in order to keep the Mystery Shack in the last season. But y'all, let me know down in the comments. I also think that it is kind of retribution that Stan did everything that he did in order to get, you know, Stanford back. I think that is kind of like his repayment in a way, like his justice that he had to go through to atone for the things that he did, if that makes sense. And Stan being hurt that Ford never said thank you for bringing him back and is going to continue to be an issue throughout the rest of the season, especially in the season finale. Ooh, these two. Ooh. Ford, however, is a badass and gets the government agents to go away, and amongst the hubbub, Odette quietly sneaks out and promises not to tell a soul about the family matters she just went through. And you know what? Maybe the Pines family do need a little bit of a break from the public eye, so she doesn't bother to trail behind them again when they go through their whole dungeons and more dungeons phase. And totally not because she just doesn't understand D&D. Guys, I wish I understood D&D. Listen, I have commitment issues, okay? However, this episode is so cute because it's Dipper and Ford bonding. Oh, it's just so cute. It's so cute. Because you know that Stanford sees himself in Dipper, and you know who else sees Dipper in Stanford? Stanley. He sees Ford in Dipper so much, and that's why it recontextualizes season 1, because it makes him feel like, oh, I need to make him stronger, not just because of, you know, life and things like that, but also because if somebody like me comes along, he needs to know how to defend himself. Why? Because Stanley is very guilt-ridden over the stuff that happened to Stanford. So Odette also ignores when Stanley runs for mayor because he just wants somebody to see him as a hero and a leader and to thank him for the things that he has done for people. Like, that's all he ever wanted. That's all he ever wanted. And no, I'm not crying. You're crying. Also, shout out to Tad Strange. I have a little bit of a story. So back in the day during this whole era, during one of these summers, my best friend's family had like this pepper business, like hot sauce pepper business. And I helped them a couple of summers, like to put on labels and like put caps on the bottles and stuff like that. It was like a real homegrown operation. And they would tell me like, hey, just so you know, this is a highly repetitive thing that can get really boring. So like bring something to listen to and a phone charger and all this. And I was like, you know what? Bet. Because what did I see bopping around Tumblr over the last couple of years? Welcome to Night Vale. So I started listening to Welcome to Night Vale during that time, and I got really, really, really far in it. I never finished the podcast, but I got really, really far. It definitely passed the point of like Cecil and whatever the fuck his boyfriend / husband's name is. Carlos? Was it Carlos? I got like past that point, and I don't remember anything that happens after that. So that's probably around... no, I think I probably listened. I got caught up at one point and then fell behind for like a year or two. So regardless, just know that is my little thing about Welcome to Night Vale. So that was the first time I had ever heard like a cameo in a show and went, oh, I know who that is, and I know the reference that they're making here with Tad Strange, because like Tad Strange being voiced by Cecil Baldwin, right? That's his last name. Is it Baldwin? Palmer. Cecil Palmer. I wrote Baldwin in my notes. Who the hell is Cecil Baldwin? I don't know, girl. Cecil Palmer, I think that is his full name. You know, obviously, Welcome to Night Vale is a really crazy, like, place where a lot of, like, eldritch horrors and things happen. So, to be in Gravity Falls, where he's just a normal guy, is, like, so cute and funny. I just explained the joke for you. Are you laughing? Are you laughing? Anyway, I was so happy when I saw that for the first time. It was the first time I ever, like, recognized the cameo, like, right out the gate. Oh, it's so cute. It's such a cute little thing. I love it so much. And Odette would follow Mabel when she goes into the whole unicorn episode thing, but, like, Odette, much like myself, don't really like unicorns, just like as a mythological creature. They've always seemed pretty snooty, and maybe it's because I watched this episode and that's maybe why I don't like unicorns, or the fact that they're very closely related to horses and horses scare me. Either way, Odette was not there, but if she was, she would have told Mabel, fuck them unicorns. And it is to be noticed how Mabel tried really, really hard for this mission, not just because she wanted the unicorns to like her, but probably also because she feels left behind in the entire whole saving the universe thing that Dipper seems to be going on. But hold that thought for me for a second. And lastly, Odette also did not follow Stan and Co. on their little road trip adventure down the other ends of the roadside attractions. However, she did hear about crazy demonic spiders, and she might be thinking that maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit more going on outside of Gravity Falls weirdness as well. This episode was so good, not just because it was the last one before what is essentially the 5-part series finale of the show, Weirdmageddon, but because it also shows the Pine family genuinely having fun with each other and making summer memories. This actually becomes very plot relevant, this idea of making memories, but it also just makes the show super, super cozy, and there's a lot to be told here that isn't just about the overarching plot. That being said, however, let's talk about the overarching plot. The Pines twins are about to turn 13, and they have a lot to think about for their future. Now, Odette has taken to trailing Ford because the signals that she's getting in her head seem to be the strongest when she's around him. I don't know what's going on there. And it seems like he's gearing up for something, but she doesn't know what. And she can try to tell the town, but like really at this point, is the town gonna listen? No. Meanwhile, remember that thought I told you to hold on to? Yeah, well, Mabel thought she was ready to grow up. She was also really, really happy to go to high school, insert High School Musical reference here. But she entered that high school gym for all of 2 seconds and said, hey, maybe not, maybe never mind. But let's be real for a second. We know damn well that while getting a glance at the epic highs and lows of high school can be very terrifying, that is not what killed her spirits. The girl does not want to grow up, and she does not want summer to end. So I say it's more like in what is a series of, well, it can't get much worse than this, Mabel has the rug that is her life pulled out from under her. Whoa, did someone say twin parallels about not wanting to grow up and not wanting to go into the future? What? Now, Odette actually does follow Dipper and Ford onto the spaceship, and let's just say she's lucky there were only 2 little security robots roaming around and not 3, because she definitely would have gotten her head cut off. She's my little girl failure, and I love her. At this point, she's just following Ford around, hopefully to get some information about the town of Gravity Falls itself. She knows that the journals probably have a lot to say about the origins of Gravity Falls and how the weirdness has been here and all that type of stuff, but she won't figure that out later until she finds the Book of Bill. But it is here that she overhears Ford asking Dipper to stay with him past the summer to help him work on his research of this town. And when Dipper asks, what about school? Ford replies, I have 12 PhDs. That is not an answer. I'm sorry, not to get topical, but it's actually kind of really funny that I started rewatching this when all this like unschooling TikTok things are happening, where people will be like, instead of giving our kids actual basic math and arithmetic, we just told them to go stare at the sun for like 8 hours. So that way all the knowledge of the sun and the earth just gets infused into their eyeballs. That's kind of what Ford sounds like right now. Like, does he have 12 PhDs? Yes. Does he know a lot of math and science? Yes. But do you really think he's going to teach Dipper anything about humanities or any type of social skills? Ford is going to teach him about social skills. If there's anything we've learned over the last course of these couple of episodes with Ford, is that he's just as cocky, kooky, and crazy as Stanley, and just as much of a bad influence. When Dipper brings up the fact that he would have to leave Mabel and they've always done everything together, you know what Stanford's response is? Yeah, isn't it suffocating? Don't lie to me. We all watched Tale of Two Stans. Everything was going great until it wasn't. Don't sit here and say that it was fucking suffocating, because it was not. It absolutely was. You cannot trick me. You cannot trick me. You're still bitter about it, and also you're projecting onto a 12-year-old. Holy projection, Batman. Like, brother, you don't need to become a homeschool teacher. You need to become a therapy patient. And of course, because Dipper is thinking about his future as it relates to his dreams and not how it relates to his social skills or his relationship with Mabel, he says yes. Mabel overhears this and runs off into the woods, accidentally taking Dipper's backpack, which has the rift thing that they had been trying to close up this entire time. And look, I know that we ended on good terms with Blendin this entire time, but a little bit too much of some stranger danger. I know that Blendin is the only one in town that Bill could possess that could offer Mabel anything even remotely to whatever she wants. However, stranger danger, that man tried to kill you. Also, it's nice to know that she got tricked by Bill. Say it with me now. Tricked by Bill. Yes. Which is also why it never even gets brought up in the first place. What happened. Like how the rift got broken. Like no one, Ford, not Dipper, not no one ever blames Mabel for all of this happening at all. So why do you? I'm not gonna lie, the Mabel hate really frustrated me so much as a kid. Actually, it scared me a lot as a kid. Now it just frustrates me because I know it comes a lot from misogyny. But as a kid, it kind of scared me because as a 13-year-old girl on the internet, it was kind of weird seeing all these like Tumblr users who were like really chill one day just suddenly randomly turn and start saying really awful things about a 12-year-old fictional girl the next. It was very weird. Mabel was nothing but a joy this entire show. And sure, you can find a little bit of her antics annoying. I never did, ever. Even rewatching it now, never once found her annoying. But even if you did, that's fine. But giving all this like really weird hate to a 12-year-old girl is kind of odd to me. And this continues to happen across a litany of different medias, especially with women as the forefront characters in shows, but y'all ain't ready to have that conversation. Now, Odette, she saw all this happen and ran for her life. All right, let's immediately clear Mabel's name here. She had this whole world made up so she would never have to return from reality, but Dipper is the one who got through to her by showing how much better they are together than they are apart. Also, the fact that he didn't fall for the bubble spell because he realized he was truly over Wendy, and Wendy offering him something just doesn't work on him anymore. anymore. Also, Wendy would never do that, but like the fact, it's a lot of character growth from him because of the fact that he is over Wendy now. Also, Dipper realizing that it is kind of crazy to think that you were going to give up your entire teenage years to go live in a basement. Like, yes, Slay King, go live your awkward teenage years. Also, Mabel would definitely be a scene kid. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video, but she would absolutely 100% be a scene kid. Like the happy memesy I has hamburger, like, oh, that is absolutely her. Y'all remember that one Fine Bros like series they had that was about music, and it was a bunch of personifications of like different genres of music, and they would like give music news. Like that was the whole show on the Fine Bros channel. It didn't last very long, but there was a scene version, like a personification of scene music, and she was like really happy even though she was wearing really dark like clothing and hot pink and like dark and like basically what Hot Topic was back then, like very scene, not necessarily goth or anything like that, but very scene. Okay, if you don't know what scene is, look it up. All right, like, but that is Mabel. I feel like she would definitely do that during high school. She would also most definitely be Tumblr famous. Well, it turns out keeping meticulous tabs on everybody in town is still beneficial to Odette, because when everybody started to run left, she ran right, and she ran right into the mystery shack. So like, you know, if you know anything about Weirdmageddon, you know that Bill is back and he's ready to take over the world. I enjoy the fact that we do get confirmation really early on that Bill liberated his entire world. Once again, no amount of therapy is going to save you. And of course, all of his friends, he wants to be his little Nakama, his little family, you know, because he destroyed his own family. And now I see every single scene that Bill and Ford had in a completely different new light, because Ford, did you fuck the triangle? But how's Odette feeling throughout all of this? You know, she's feeling kind of sad. Well, obviously the world is ending, but the fact that most of the town has been taken hostage by now, she kind of like misses the town in a really weird way. Like, yeah, they were idiots, but like they were her idiots, and she kind of fit in right along with them, despite the fact that no one really ever paid attention to her. So when what's left of Gravity Falls takes up their arms against the big triangle in the sky, god damn it, she does it too. She and Bill have been unfortunately sharing a mindscape, and goddamn it, she's tired of this goddamn fucking triangle. She can hear his thoughts almost like eavesdropping, and babes, he is not okay. But we already knew that. Also, how dare you turn half of her favorite ship in the town into stone? Of course, I'm talking about the police officers. She does notice Stan in the corner looking a little worried though. Stan's thought process here is, if the smartest person I know, my brother, can't defeat Bill, what chance do any of us have? And it's a really grounded moment for Stan that is kind of showing his age in a way that like, in a good way of kind of like, I'm too old for this shit. Like, we're gonna die. Also, ew, why does he walk out of the triangle like this? It just makes me, I don't know why that scene gave me the heebie-jeebies. Now the town, or what's left of it, all come together to try and get rid of Bill. They release all of the citizens. She's never been more happy to see Toby determined in her life. And of course, Ford knows a way to get rid of Bill once and for all. The little symbols of the prophecy come together. And when everybody fills their spot in said prophecy, they can come together and do God knows what, because it doesn't go very well. This is so funny and one of the best moments of the show. The fact that we as a collective community since the very beginning have been debating and theorizing about who is who in this little circle, and that when everybody comes together it's going to be so cool, and they're going to send one big energy blast to Bill and it's going to kill him and it's going to be great, and oh my god, just for it to not happen because Ford and Stan still cannot get along and still have issues. I think it is such a genius writing play to be like, yeah, sure, everybody can hold hands and do better. I think I mentioned in the last episode where it's like, yeah, sure, you could do the very obvious answer, even if it's been being built up over the course of the last 2 seasons. You can do the most obvious answer, or you can do something that's a lot cooler and a lot more heart-wrenching and a lot more personal. The fact that the circle doesn't work because Stan and Ford still have not forgiven each other for the things that have happened in their lives is just, mwah. Oh, it's so good. And we will never know what the fuck was gonna happen if everybody stood on that circle. We will never fucking know. And it's great. I love it so much. Like, it's such a misdirection. It's the biggest psych of the series. And it's like keeping it grounded and personal and like, keeping it in the family. I love it so much. So everybody gets captured and turned back into stone, or not stone, but like little flags on the wall. And Odette is probably somewhere, either wherever the townsfolk are. I don't know if they got turned back into stone or what have you. But now it's just the Pines family, and Dipper and Mabel take it upon themselves to try and get rid of Bill themselves, which like obviously obviously is a suicide mission. And as Stan and Ford try to figure out what to do, they come up with an idea. And this is so cool. So basically, they decide to swap each other's bodies. And then when Bill comes back, offer to make a deal with him because Bill wants to get inside of Ford's mind. So now Stan is posing as Ford. It's really cool because in this scene, you can see Stan, which is really Ford dressed as Stan. You can see him with 6 fingers in this scene. It is such a beautiful nod to detail. Oh, I love it so much. Oh, it's so good. So Bill is like, yes, absolutely, I will go inside of your brain, Ford. And they shake hands, they go inside of his brain, and immediately Ford, the real Ford, uses the mind eraser on Stan to erase Bill from his mind. It's such a heart-wrenching moment because Stan sits there and says, I finally did something right by my family. Yeah, all right. My therapy bill going to you, Alex Hirsch and co. Okay, I'm not gonna just put this all on Alex Hirsch. There was a litany of writers. Okay, because all he ever wanted was to do something right by his family. Because if his family thinks he's a hero, then that's all that fucking matters. Yeah, okay. And yeah, for the rest of the episode, I was bawling my eyes out. They try to get Grunkle Stan's memories back by showing him all of the memories that have happened over the course of the summer. I told you this would come back as an actual plot point. The fact that they had actual real memories. That whole episode of them going to the roadside attractions when they were committing literal crimes, like those were real memories. Of course, the big thing with the spider, but that overall had no consequences on the larger overarching plot. All of those episodes that didn't have any type of bearing on the plot whatsoever, it's important that those happened, obviously for the sake of this plot, but also if you want to think about it as a dementia allegory, but like don't do that, you'll make yourself sad like I did. But it's important that we have these memories here and that you're holding on to both the past, the present, and of course the future. Now Tyler, who is the mayor, announces that he's going to enact a new law called the Never Mind All That, which is just pretty much if anybody outside of town asks about the what happenings of this town and the craziness that happened, they just say, oh, never mind all that. Don't worry about it. Now, of course, you would think that this would piss Odette off to no end because this is the proof that she wanted, right? This is the proof right here that they know that all of this crazy shit was happening and they've just been sweeping it under the rug this entire time. But the realization hits her. There's a reason why when the government agents showed up, it felt wrong. Not just because they were government agents, but because they were outsiders. The idea that someone or something can harm this town and all of its weirdness, the weirdness that makes Gravity Falls what it is, what makes these people who they are, and anything outside of that coming to ruin it would just ruin its magic and ruin the kind of togetherness that the town has because of it. And you don't need to look very far for this magic, just a little west of weird. And so with that, Odette decides to stay in Gravity Falls just a little longer as the Pine twins say goodbye for the summer. I imagine that she finds the Book of Bill years later, and everything she heard in the Mindscape now makes a lot more sense. Now, of course, she knows not to bring Bill back, but like, who knows? Maybe somebody else will bring Bill back. I don't know. Maybe we'll get hopefully a season 3. I don't know. Maybe not a season 3. Maybe an entirely different story that just happens to take place within the Gravity Falls extended universe. Or I'm still rooting for a comic or a graphic novel, something along those lines. I would love one of those. I think because they had Gravity Falls comics, so it wouldn't be crazy out of line to like just make more Gravity Falls comics. Yeah, every time I see that "See You Next Summer" letter, I burst into tears. I actually have it because I have the collector's edition version of Gravity Falls. Let me show you. Hold on. Here's the collector's edition. I realized I was talking way down here. I think I might have cried my eyes out the first time that I saw this when I had gotten it. I'm pretty sure this was a gift. Someone got me like the box set. So that means this means even more to me. The fact that somebody knows that this is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. And it says, "See you next summer." And it has everybody's, everyone's little things on it. It's so cute. It's so fucking cute. Oh, shout out to Schmebulog. It says, "Come back soon." I'm not gonna cry. Nope. I'm not gonna cry. So, do not worry. Odette's story is not over. She may appear in a different form, in a different life, in a different way, but I'm not done with her just yet. Oh my god, this show means so much to me. I was literally bawling my eyes out after the last episode ended. I didn't think I would. Like, I knew I would feel that nice, cozy, nostalgic feeling, but I didn't think I'd be bawling my eyes out at like 8 p.m. I hate this stupid fucking show. I hate it so fucking much. When I say it's been 10 years, I do mean it. I did not watch the show again since it had come out. Just I just don't really do that type of thing. So maybe I should more often, because Jesus Christ, like this was such an emotional trip. But seeing this again for the first time in 10 years, it's been 10 years since the show ended. And like I've grown, everybody's grown, people have grown, but oh my God, Gravity Falls. It is such a fantastical story grounded in such amazing character writing. Like Gravity Falls coming back was such a great thing. Like I think like just like Arcane, you know, the Arcane show has like gotten a lot of people out of their art block. I think like the Gravity Falls like train coming back with the Book of Bill and rewatching Gravity Falls again has gotten me out of whatever type of like writing funk I had probably been in for a while. The fact that you guys like inspired me to do this like format and you guys really enjoy it, and I would love to continue to do this format, especially with different OCs for different shows. Like I would absolutely love to. Remember to share your OCs down in the comments below. And thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you did, you are a real one. Thank you so much for like loving Odette, because like she was definitely half baked last episode, but she's like one of the first OCs I've ever put pen to paper about, like ever. So the fact that y'all were loving her even though I hadn't even drawn her yet, but now she will be drawn by the time this comes up, because I already have the sketches done. I just need to finish the actual drawings. So thank you so much for all the love on that. I would love to show more OCs. I would love to make more OCs for more shows, so let me know down in the comments whatever show, movie, game you would like to do this one. Definitely Deltarune, I hope Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 come out this year. I really hope, or within the early next year, because I absolutely will be doing this with Deltarune, because I love Deltarune so much, and I have so many OCs in my head, so many. So let me know if you guys want to see any of that. So to more OCs and fun in the future, I will see you in the next episode. Love and peace.